Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing well. The cool thing about having cool subscribers is every once in a while I'll click on their name and I discover they have a really cool channel. And I wanted to make a shout out for 86Laowhy, who literally just commented, and I had a look at the channel, and he's got some great videos that are actually well edited, so I recommend you go check them out. And they're pretty funny. And one video I saw kind of inspired me to just talk a little bit about China for a bit and just bring up certain thoughts that people should consider when criticizing China. Now, I'm not beyond criticizing China. I'm not a paid anyone's shill, but if someone wants to pay me, that's fine, you can do it. But China has a lot of issues, and I made a video previously how we don't really have any good choices anymore in the world. Like, we have a choice between certain kind of very gray countries, and we have to decide kind of the best of the worst between them. The issue with guys like Laowhy86, not 86Laowhy, but Laowhy86, the Western anti-Chinese paid shill, is that they are actually brainwashed into the Western propaganda and they don't realize it. So they'll sit there all day and they'll criticize the Chinese propaganda and make fun of it, but they won't actually, they don't understand that the reason why they say a lot of the stuff without thinking it through or probably doing any proper research about it is, even though you lived there, anyone can live in the country for a certain period of time, it doesn't mean you know the ins and outs of the political system and the economy or anything like that. I lived in Australia for a good portion of my life, and I don't know every single thing about everything here. So the problem with these guys is, the propaganda is they're brainwashed, literally, or they're just paid and brainwashed. It's a mixture of the two. So they don't really get the truth. They don't realize what the truth is because they'll just spout out the propaganda that they've been told. So if someone tells them, China's collapsing and this and that, that's what they believe, and that's what they'll regurgitate without thinking it through. And 86Laowhy made this great video. It's called Hopium. And it goes through, I'll play a little bit of it.
China is nothing.
Thanks, Hopium.
A mere shell of its ancient past.
Okay.
Thanks, Hopium.
China.
It's actually the opposite. China actually had a really rough patch before, but now it's pretty much the competing power in the world, and maybe even a power that will, I think ultimately it will surpass America. And whatever issue China has, he's gone around the reason he gives, for example. So let's get into some things that I would like you to consider. So one of the big things, at least Laowhy86 talks about, is the shoddy construction and ghost towns and ghost cities and things like this. The fact of the matter is, the very fact that China can build massive cities and just leave them empty, the fact that they have the capability to do that is impressive in its own right. That's what you should be really impressed about. Because I can tell you, in Australia, almost every single day, at least once a week, we have a builder collapsing, going out of business or something like that. Just on the front page today was an energy company that collapsed. So the truth of the matter is, it's the West that's kind of declining. It's Australia that's incapable to build anything. We don't even have high-speed rail in Australia, and part of the reason why is we can't actually build it, and I guess we refuse to do business with China and get them to build it for us because we're chum buddies with America, or also known as being America's bitch. So we don't have high-speed rail at all. So that's the reality of Australia. And yes, we have a very small population, which brings me to my next point. Australia has a very small population, a very large landmass, and lots of resources that we can export. So of course, the quality of life for the average Australian is going to be quite high because there's just not that many of us, and we have a lot of resources we can spread out. If you have billions of people in a country, if Australia had billions of people here, and now landmass is pretty large, we would not, we would, I think most of us would just, starve of hunger or something if we kept doing things the way we do it now. So my other point that you should consider when criticizing China is they have or India or any other country with just a giant population, is you can't judge them by how nice maybe like Australia is in terms of just the average person's life and how easy life is here, which is true. You can't really judge them compared to a country that has literally billions of people and is trying to provide the best quality of life for those billions of people. Obviously, it's very difficult to do, and obviously, the sad reality is that if you have that large of a population, there's going to be people that fall through the cracks and not have a really good time, and that's going to be expanded because of a large population. You're going to have a large percent of people who kind of suffer or don't have the best life, basically. That's the second thing I want you to consider when criticizing China. Something I don't know if he realizes or not, but the next thing I guess we can talk about is population. So Laowhy86 will often criticize China for a declining population, and that may be true, but again, China has billions of people, so I think China will be okay population-wise, even if it declines a little bit. Now, you look at the Western allies, you look at the West, and we also have, we are not replacing our population at all. Like, we don't have a replacement population. Our population is all imported from people. You look at another Western ally in Japan, and Japan is going to be like a dead society. But even if you go to Japan and you see, like, Japan is the poster child of a collapsing population rate. But if you go there, it's not like that bad. I mean, the things they build up are still there, and yeah, there's like empty shops, and I think I visited one person and the whole house was empty and things like this. Like, there's things that affect the population, and obviously it's not sustainable to just have your population just constantly declining and not replacing it. And Japan doesn't even import people to replace them, whereas the West just imports everybody, from wherever. So that's also like just one obvious thing you need to consider, like regardless of whether Chinese population is declining, and it might be like they have plenty of people, like they still have lots of people. If anything, it will probably improve the quality of life, because there'll be less people. Okay, there won't be maybe enough people to take care of the older people. They could have immigrants do that. They'll have to work this out, but like China has enough people, so come the fuck down, Laowhy86. They'll be okay. What else? I think we kind of obviously pointed out that the hypocrisy of them blaming the Chinese for genocide. I've already gone this through my other video. Them just constantly spewing forth the word genocide and not addressing what's happening in Palestine is just beyond hypocritical, and it's just completely asinine to think that these guys have any sort of credibility when it comes to being humanitarian, which is what Laowhy, by the way, considers himself a human rights advocate for China, I guess. So it's exclusive to China, and he'll talk all day about how evil China is, but when his own country, the West, is literally supporting and sending missiles to commit atrocities, genocide, horrible things in other countries, I guess he's okay with it. So not saying the things that China is doing, again, we can be critical of China, we can be critical of what they're doing, but just there's no comparison, because the amount of people Western countries have just slaughtered in the Middle East, even before Palestine, just invading Iraq, Libya, destabilizing the Middle East, there's like no comparison to sending people into re-education camps, because a lot of them, at least a portion of them, have committed terrorist acts, but I won't get into that now. It's just no comparison. Like, the West is way more shitty in that scenario. China seems to me like it is a more democratic kind of power compared to America is. And one thing, Laowhy86 and all these Chinese critics is they'll fearmonger you into thinking that China is going to be this evil dictatorship, which is just going to completely like lord over everybody and force the ideology down people's throats. And to that I will say to you, well, we've had America just constantly do that to everybody else in the world. So let's have somebody new. And I know there's the saying, better the devil you know, but the devil we have now is a total piece of shit show, to put it bluntly. So I kind of feel, at least from what I see China doing, it seems like it's going in the right direction. And I really like this idea of the multipolar world, which means that there'll be different states, different nations doing their own thing and managing things their own way. So Russia is going to do things its own way, China is going to do things its own way, Brazil is going to do things its own way, the Middle East countries will do, and then Europe and Australia and the West can have the numpty, tranny time, story time, global homo way as well. Like, China is not going to affect them. Like, if we want to do like the global homo thing here, yeah, we can do that. That's going to be fine. Like, everyone should have the option to do what they decide, and that's how I understand what the multipolar world is going to be, as opposed to America and the West that wants to shove the ideology, and that's what they've been doing by force, with murder, with genocide. That's what they've been doing around the world. And if not that, they'll be brainwashing people through the non-government organizations around the world, and they'll brainwash people into the ideology and propaganda, and it's everything that anti-China critics kind of criticize China for. The West in America has done, and it's pretty obvious if you just go beyond your preconceived notions and propaganda that you've been brainwashed with. One more thing I'll say about the propaganda. In China, if you ever watch, there's this show called If You Are the One, which I really, really enjoy. And it's actually based, I believe, on an Australian show, or maybe a show from the UK. But I actually think Australia actually created the first show, and it didn't really do that well. And I think the reason it didn't do that well is because of the culture. So the Western culture, when it comes to dating, is you always like talk yourself up. You always show your best side to the girl. If you want to, maybe you show a little bit of vulnerability, but it can't be anything too bad. Whereas if you watch the Chinese show, I don't know if it's fake or not. It doesn't seem like it's fake to me. But if you watch that show, you'll see people come on and they'll just like Chinese people, and they'll be very upfront with everything. Let's just put it that way. At least the early episodes. I don't know. It's gone a bit too crazy for me now. Like with the latest episodes, we've got too much stuff going on. But in the old episodes, it was really focused on the people, and there was a big culture shock. And it's hard to understand a different culture. So yes, China has a lot of propaganda, and the propaganda is weird. And you can make fun of it, yeah, sure. But it's just different. It's different propaganda. And because we live in the West, we are also propagandized, but we're just propagandized and brainwashed in different ways. So yes, China has a weird way to propagandize people and brainwash them. And yes, there isn't a perfect good guy over there. Like, I don't want to have to, hold North Korea up as a moral example in the world, but the unfortunate reality is that North Korea has invaded less countries than Australia has. So on the world stage, North Korea is actually more ethical than Australia is. That's the fact of reality. And like, I wish it wasn't the fact. I wish we didn't, invade other countries on the behest of America and, murder children. But that's what Australia does. So no matter how, North Korea treats people like shit, I'm willing to say that. And they have weird propaganda also, but you can't just be critical one way. I mean, you are, because you get paid to be so. Laowhy86, not 86Laowhy, which was a cool guy. But like, it's just dumb, like, to just go in one direction. Like, I can shit on China as well here, but it's just too many people doing it, so that's why I don't really focus on it. But when the time comes, I'll shit on China also. But again, it's a two-way street, and yeah, you have to criticize both. You have to understand and face the reality. Stop talking about China for a bit and just research the reality and the country and the nation you're living in and what they've done, and look at the history and come to a more sensible conclusion. You won't do that because, again, you get paid for not doing it. Maybe you can, maybe you will one day. That's a possibility I'm leaving out there. It seems unlikely, but maybe you will come to that conclusion at some point. Who knows, if you actually have any decency. But let's just say I'm not holding my breath for it. I'm not waiting around for that to happen. But so that's what I wanted to say. Go check out 86Laowhy's channel and his videos. They're great. All the best, guys. I hope you have a awesome day. Bye.